How's it going, everybody? Welcome to a brand new video. My name is Faze Crypto. Feel free to follow us on Snapchat. So, TRON, TRX. I'm really excited to see what's up next for TRON, especially in the light of BitTorrent and a multitude of other variables, including Justin Sun and the vision that he has for TRON. But in particular, it's the social media vacuum that's currently opening up. We're witnessing a decline of platforms like Twitter. They're losing stock rapidly because they're really abusing their user base through manipulated algorithms and censorship. You name it. Same problems happening with Facebook, and ultimately the same problem is also happening with YouTube. The thing is, YouTube and these different platforms, I love them. I want Twitter to do what Twitter is supposed to do, but the fact of the matter is that cryptocurrency and the decentralized capabilities of these new futuristic components are ultimately going to overtake these old platforms as the years move on, as we see Facebook losing a user base, using activity on the platform. We'll see these new platforms rising up. And of course, TRON has targeted, as far as industry goes, TRON's doing a pretty strategic move there. But TRON and BitTorrent, this is what I want to talk about, in this video to a large extent. The fact that this decentralized approach to providing media, we've seen sort of a very interesting proof of concept through, essentially the Steam and DTube. The fact that we know that this is possible. And of course, I think that people are getting tired of seeing what's happening, involving a lot of these different variables, and I don't blame them. And of course, just looking forward at what's going to be happening to TRON, in particular, I'm very excited to be seeing the future of where this is going to go. Essentially, really, BitTorrent and TRON together, I think that this is going to ultimately be a match made in heaven. Obviously, BitTorrent, well established, people really understanding, this TRON project. I think that the community working with TRON is ultimately one of the best communities in the space of cryptocurrency. And just looking at the popularity of this technology in general, it really is unprecedented to see how so many people have been gathering around TRON and really giving it the attention that it deserves. And I think that there's still a lot of hope, despite the fact that obviously it is a rocky road with cryptocurrency. It's going to take a little bit of time to overcome a lot of the different variables that are accumulating on an international scale. Make no mistake about it, we're still early in the game, but of course changing the world doesn't happen overnight. Sure, cryptocurrency does have the power to change the world overnight once regulations and the conversation regarding, on an international level, cryptocurrency is a symptom of a much larger paradigm shift that's happening really at the helm of the fact that everybody all around the world, every single day, in all countries, there's more and more people being connected to the internet, more people with smartphones, and the interconnected nature of the future, and the world of tomorrow. We're living in the future already. Of course, I'd like to see Bitcoin, closer to where it was towards the end of 2017. I'm sure I'm not alone there, but of course, we're just going to have to deal with these different variables. Just for the most part, remember this fact that there's only a finite amount of Bitcoin in the world. So ultimately, eventually, all of the Bitcoin in the world, the max supply or in the circulating supply, it's going to be maxed out, and all the Bitcoin will be in the hands of different people. So if you're holding on to some Bitcoin, make sure that you pass it down to your grandkids, and even if Bitcoin goes to zero, even if the market cap goes, mathematically, I don't think that it's possible for Bitcoin to go to zero, but you know what I mean. Bitcoin goes to $100, still hold on to it, because it is still holding. I think that if something like that happens, one of the things that's really frustrating for me is the fact that this market seems very manipulated. I know that I was briefly mentioning this in the beginning of the video, but this larger symptom of the market manipulation, I think, could drive these unpredictable elements. up to the surface, and I'm not really ruling anything out at this point. I mean, from what I've seen, think about how far Bitcoin has come in such a short amount of time, and ultimately, I mean, what we've seen as far as the establishment and the picks that they seem to have, associating themselves with, as far as the trends happening on a larger scale involving the banks and so forth. I mean, talk about how there's the really the question of centralized versus decentralized components of the internet as well, moving forward into this next stage of the paradigm shift as it's happening, right in front of us. So ultimately, there are a lot of different variables that are going to need to come together, respectively. But I mean, I do have faith in Tron. I'm definitely a fan of Tron. I think they are really strong, establishing themselves in the number 11 position, and of course, the fact that we're seeing, Twitter, they're plummeting, their stock is plummeting. Facebook, same story. Facebook is no more. It's going the way of MySpace. People are going to forget Facebook and Twitter even existed. Those are going to be jokes in a few years. But what's happening, we're seeing the rise of these new platforms, these leveraging cryptocurrency, and essentially, I think that the future definitely is running parallel along the same lines as something like Tron, something like Steam, the decentralized component of the future of these media platforms. And I think Justin Sun definitely does have a really strong idea of where things are going to go. And when we see these different things happening in the news, I mean, founder Justin Sun graduates from it's interesting to see, because obviously in Justin Sun's part of the world, they certainly do value innovation and forward thinking, and those celebrities in the tech space really are talented individuals, as opposed to Zuckerbot, the Facebook robot, who's just sort of just like a person they pulled out of Harvard and threw up for us to be the face of Facebook. But I really don't think that Mark Zuckerberg is anywhere near as talented as someone like Justin Sun. I think that really he's a strong and ambitious individual, and Justin Sun and the team working with Tron are ultimately going to bring things full circle. And of course, we see this reflected in the news every single day, the potential of Tron. I mean, Tron releases a weekly report and post-TVM launch aims for industry breakthrough, and industry is going to be very essential for Tron as well. I mean, there really is a lot of potential for Tron, overall, if you have done your research. I mean, that's why we recommend people doing their own research in this space. I mean, remember, I'm not a financial advisor. This video is for entertainment, educational purposes only. Disclaimer: I'm not your dad. At the end of the day, you have to figure out what you're going to do. I mean, you want to ignore the paradigm shift that is cryptocurrency? I mean, be my guest. I mean, anybody could do it. You could ignore Tron, or you could really look into what's happening. And it's essentially, it's amazing for me because it's the future in the making. And, obviously, I sort of disregard the day-to-day, whether or not things are in the green or in the red. It doesn't really matter to me. I look at the technology and where these applications are actually going to be headed and how it's going. I mean, obviously, I'm paying attention to all different variables, but that being said, it is interesting to see how Tron is leading the pack as far as this big opportunity goes. So I was watching this video by the modern investor. TRON Will Surpass Ethereum. I mean, he goes into detail exploring this interesting article, which really reviews these statements made by Justin Sun, and I think that this is an interesting idea, something to play around with. I was looking at the from a data analytical perspective, and I think in the long term, the potential is there. People overlook this to a large extent, but we have to realize how early Tron is and how far along Ethereum is, and ultimately Tron has the opportunity to make some key strategic decisions now that ultimately might make it more applicable. So in as far as the competition that's going to be underway involving the conversation about Ethereum. So I'm actually going to include a link to this video down in the description. So if you guys want to check it out. I think this individual has a very interesting perspective, and I think it's worth hearing. And as you guys know, I like to share different YouTubers' perspectives because I think that it's good for the community at large. And also in the interest of the community, I'd recommend you guys, if you're interested in learning more about Justin Sun and the decentralization of the internet, of course, make sure that you follow Justin Sun on his Twitter respectively, and you could also follow us on our Twitter. Twitter handle will be in the description. And all that being said, I hope you guys have enjoyed this content. I'll see you guys in the next video. Make sure that you subscribe and put on post notifications and follow us on Snapchat, all that good stuff. And I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.